We are going to open up our Be a Scientist notebook to page 106. And we are going to go back to our temperature drop that we started with for this. And we're just going to look at what you guys put, who you agreed with. Did you agree with Mrs. Collins or Mr. Collins? And looking back at our situation, we saw that Mr. and Mrs. Collins live in Tampa, Florida. They enjoy the warm winter weather, and the average temperature in in February is the mild 70 degrees Fahrenheit. This year, there was a week of very cold temperatures. It dropped to 38 degrees in one day, and it almost snowed. Mr. and Mrs. Collins were surprised that it got so cold, and this is what they said. Mr. Collins said, "This is a big change in our weather." And Mrs. Collins said, "Wow, this is a big change in our climate." And you guys put down who you agreed with, and you put why you agreed with them. So I want you to look back at it, and I want you to see if you agree with your a week and a half ago self, or if you would change your thinking. How many of you agree with how many of you the first time around agreed with Mr. Collins? About half. And the rest of you agreed with Mrs. Collins? Raise your hand if you changed your thinking. That's maybe it. Okay. Now if you agree with Mr. Collins, stand up. Have a seat. We have 6 people maybe who agree with Mr. Collins now. The rest of you agree that it was climate. What is climate?
Climate.
Griffin, what is climate?
Climate is the weather pattern, like what it usually is and what the weather pattern is in a certain place.
Okay. So climate is the weather pattern, what it usually is in a certain place. Starting it. Yep. Ray, what else do we know about the climate? Yeah, climate is going to be, I think that's the big point, over a long period of time, right? Is a week a long period of time?
No.
So was there a big change in the climate? No, it wasn't like for a month straight they had this big long weather, or for a whole season it snowed instead of sunshine. So their climate was the same. They had a change in weather. So if it's just a short amount of time, it's more that weather change. That climate is going to be that pattern, and it's happening over and over again, and it's going to be for a longer period of time. So this actually was going to be a change in our weather, so we should be agreeing with Mr. Collins. Now, I know when we get in and we start talking about climate, we want it to be a climate change, but we want to see that this wasn't a climate change. It was, in fact, just a weather change because it was just for a short period of time.
For the few students that still needed breakfast this morning, Mrs. Hodges is getting those, and she'll get them to you. Thanks.
You? Okay, Sam, you've had your hand up. What's your question, comment, concern? That's okay. You might have been gone that day.
Yeah.
Or that morning. Fabulous. So just kind of good to go back and check in on what we were thinking. Sound good?